call is now being recorded. This call is now being transcribed.
Okay. Hi. Okay. We can let us begin. So the prayers. Have I sent that document? I guess all of you have it then, right? So we can just use it based on that. I will not project. So let's see. Maybe. Yeah, we'll just do it. I guess those of you who have it, you can just refer to that. The first one, we will do it together.
Shall I project it there?
Okay. You have it. You can project it. Yeah. So Arvind, we can do this first part, and then we will do that one marked in yellow, the next one.
Sure. 1 second. I, by mistake, pressed the wrong button.
Okay. So we can, let's say together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahavirya Tejasvi Namastu Om Shanti. Next, yeah, you can move down. Yeah, it's fine. So you can repeat after me. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Bhadarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande I think, okay. So we'll just do this last part. Ishwaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Next one together. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti. So we'll just take a couple of minutes. Just take a few minutes and let us just try to internalize the mind which goes out from the senses. So the immediate way is to make a resolution. The objects that the eyes see, the ears hear, and all the senses perceive, they are always going to be there. What makes that change is when the mind decides that it is not going to go out with the objects, then immediately the mind turns inward. So this is that resolution we have to make, that I will not be distracted by these objects. And then slowly we bring the mind to contemplation. The Vedantic way of turning the mind inward, the Nivritti Marga, is that we bring attention to that indwelling self, that Paramatma within consciousness. And the only activity, the only action that we do is to seek that inner self, to turn that mind to that inner self. So earlier we were engaged in a lot of actions. So now the action we do is to purify that seeking, that desires which was turning us outward was based on that ignorance. We thought that what we seek is outside. Really that what we seek is within us. So the attention through that knowledge turns inward. So then we realize that both inward and outward are just different perspectives of that same one reality. So when there is that knowledge, then the self is the world. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Narayana. So, see, today, today we are going to look at the Bhasya for the mantra 1 and 2, which we have already kind of, the introduction for the mantra we've already done. So what is the first mantra which we looked at? It was about it said that Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita makrida kasya svidhanam. So the way it was translated was that this world, whatever exists in this world, it is covered by the Lord, or it is the Lord itself. And then it was says, enjoy the world by letting go, or Shankaracharya's translation, protect the self by renunciation. And then seek not after others' wealth, or whose wealth is it anyway? So these are different kinds of translations. So as we looked at it, so this mantra, before that we looked at the Bhashya last class, and we Shankaracharya very affirmatively concluded that this is not part of the mantra bhaga, meaning that Purva Mimamsas kind of consider the Vedas, which is the mantra bhaga, as important. The Brahmana bhaga, they think it's just as an added thing. It is not really important. It's just an additional thing. But then Shankaracharya said, no, this is the most important thing. We need to focus on this. And the others is was all a preparation to be able to appreciate this. So all the things that was mentioned in the Karma Kanda, the Upasana Kanda, is a preparation for this. So that was a main part that Shankaracharya has already divided very clearly and said that, so this one, I am going to take it as Upanishad. This I'm going to take it as the knowledge part. So then he starts giving his Bhashya on that. So now let us look at the Bhashya. So we will, I will just use the Gambhirananda's translation as I look through the English, because it's more literal, and then we will read the Nikhilananda's at the end. So here, when we start that, he says this. He's going to talk about Ishavasyam idam. So that word is going to explain first. What is this Ishavasyam idam? So he says, Isha ishte ite it. Tenesha ishita parameshwaraha paramatma sarvasya Sahi sarvamishta sarva jantunam atma san pratyagatmataya. So this I've already kind of explained in the regular mantra class, where he says that Isha, that word, where does that word derive from? It derives from that Sanskrit root word called it. So from there, what does that meaning of that is? It means the Lord, the one who is the Lord of something, is a ruler. So Shankaracharya goes on to say, what is he the ruler of? He is a ruler of, he's a supreme self of all, Paramatma Sarvasya. Then he is the Pratyagatma. He is the indwelling self of all. He is the inner being for everyone. In all of us, he is that inner being, and he is a self of all beings, and has such rules all. Hmm? So this is what we call antaryami. Everyone is dictated, their actions, their power to act comes from within. So that power to act, it's, of course, how we act is based on our wisdom and our knowledge and ignorance, but that power to act comes from within. Tena svenena rupena atma ishavasya achadaniyam. So that Isha, uh, that form of that self, with that we should cover the whole world. We should cover with that, meaning our vision should be that this is the Isha. So then he says, "Idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam." So whatever is moving, whatever is changing, that is this. This is that same Isha only. And this has to be, all this is to be covered by oneself, the Lord, through his supreme reality. Uh, so this is, we discussed about this. So we actually, we said that there are 2-3 models through which we can look at. And when we look at what Shankaracharya is trying to do, is he's trying to shift the model that which we seem to get from here. Now, if you do a literal translation, is that the God is in all, or that one is in all. Maybe we can say like that. If you don't want to use the word God, you can say that that one universal thing is in all. So that thing, Shankaracharya is now trying to change to a different version. Now, let us just look at this a little bit more, because many other commentators, especially those who have also successfully done a lot of commentaries from the tradition, they say that this is literally what it's saying is the meaning. Why? Because they say, how do they interpret it? We can just briefly look at it. Their interpretation is that there is spirit and nature. So this is partly, we can also relate to this from the Sankhya language. When we divide it into Sankhya language, the two realities, what will they be? Those of you who are familiar with yoga, Sankhya, and all that.
Purusha and Prakriti.
Purusha, Prakriti. Very good. Yeah, there's Purusha and Prakriti. So two things are there. So here it's a refined version of Purusha, meaning that Purusha is not an individual Purusha. There's that one supreme Purusha. And then there is that nature, Prakriti. So these two are different. There is that one supreme God, and then there is and this is also partly like some kind of a version of like what we can take from Dvaita, especially Visishta Dvaita and all that. They prefer this model. There is that one God, supreme God, and then there is this thing called Jada and Chetan Jada. Chit Jada or Chetan Jada. This is Sanskrit words. But literally, we say that Chit, the word Chit is consciousness, we say, right? But there it's like, say, same version. It is that Chetan, meaning it is that pure consciousness is one thing. And then there is Jada. Jada meaning insentient. It is like a rock. Rock doesn't have life, right? So insentient. So there is Chit and Jada. Chetan and Jada. So this is a very common model with a lot of later Vedantas that came out. And in fact, one of the Upanishad translations that's very famous is also Aurobindo. So he also later on he refuted Shankaracharya, and he expanded on this quite well. So there also he says that in that nature there is spirit, in that that jada becomes alive because of spirit. That insentient becomes sentient because of this. So this is also our normal vision, and this is a strong vision, right? Like if we really analyze a little bit more, someone is there, like if you know somebody, and that person, let's say, has died, and you go to see their body, their like here, sometimes in the ghats, Ganga ghats, there many times the bodies are kept and they burn the bodies. So when you look at that body looks okay. There's nothing wrong with that. This is the person I knew. So what is missing there? That chit is missing. That consciousness is missing. This is also somewhat like somewhat advanced scientific model, right? Like where they say that the consciousness is not there. So even if you put air or pump air into the lungs and the blood and all that, the body will not come because something is missing. That is the conscious element. So this is the same thing he is saying. This whole universe is pervaded by that Isha. And in everything, you have to look for that Isha, or you cover everything with Isha. So that is a world, that is how the Upanishad has started. But what is the real, how do we really analyze this? And this is where Shankaracharya takes that other deeper meaning, and where he says, he goes on to explain this here, and he gives an example here. What is the example is, yatha chandana garvadehe udakadi sambandha kledhadi jamaupadikam durgamyadam tatswarupa nigarshanena chadyate svena paramartikena gandena. So he gives an example. This example is that there is a sandalwood, and some of you, like who do puja, you might have done this, or you will see this in temples sometimes. The sandalwood, if you go to a traditional Indian temple or something, you will see that sandalwood. If you put it in water, they put that sandalwood in water, and what happens, that is to make it wet. But apparently what Shankaracharya is saying is, when you put it in water, it has a bad smell. But sandalwood is not. It is the perfume of sandalwood is a sought after thing, especially in many in parts of India, South India, and all that. Sandalwood is a very sought out of thing because it has a nice fragrance. So the example he's giving is from there, where especially where he was born and all, Kerala and all that, sandalwood was used quite effectively for puja. So what he's saying is that sandalwood, when you put in water, smells bad. But if you rub that sandalwood, then what happens? You get that proper sandalwood paste, and that smells very nice, smells good, original smell. And that is the original smell of it. So similarly, what has happened to this world is like that, he says. This world is originally this God, this pure consciousness. But because this Jada Vastu has covered it, Jada Vastu seems to be what we are experiencing through our senses. We have forgotten that there is this God in between, hidden behind. So that is where he has started it. But let us see where he goes. See, this is just a beginning where he's still in connection with that first model. But now he goes on to say further here. What is that point that he says is, he says, now he comes to this place that whatever is Jagat, that point he's taking up. Jagatyam ityupa lakshanarthatva sarvameva nama rupa karmakyam. vikara jatam paramartha satyatma bhavanaya tyaktvam sya. So now he's saying that actually what you're calling as jagat, huh? That which moves, and that is where the duality and that ignorance is coming. That sense of duality, it is coming because of this thing called what we call as this jada, this insentient, this earth. This earth is that the jada vastu, that and it is in the form of this moving thing, things that moves, right? That meaning that the earth, the planets are moving, the earth, everything is subject to moving, and that gives a sense of duality for us, that sense of duality which has come in, that I am experiencing this world, this kind of a duality has come in. And he says this sense of duality which has come in. So now what he's trying to give this, he's showing where there's Isha and then there is a Jagat. So that is a perception you have had. And he's trying to uproot that perception by saying, what is it that has to be abandoned by what? Saying that this is nothing but name, form, and action. Nama, Rupa, Karma. Name, form, and action meaning what? There is nama, like what is the example we can take for something which has taken many forms? Like I have given a couple of examples. Like if you really look at some objects in the world, world also, that one essence can take so many forms. What are the drishtanta? What are the examples we can give for this?
For gold.
Gold. Gold is one thing. Then
Clay.
clay. Yeah, very good. Clay also. Clay, gold, and all this. So what has happened is here he has switched the model. What is the model originally? That there was God and it was supporting this Jagat. That is a literal model you take. But what he is saying is this Jagat also is nothing but three things. If you put it in way, this name, form, and action. See, action is a very important element, right? Like when we define ourselves, like if you look at people introducing themselves, one of the first thing they want to know is, what do you do? What kind of job you do? So it's based on action. People are defined a lot of times based on their action, their occupation. If not that also, like they like to associate with some action, some form of an action. So that is also a distinguishing form. Their form, how they appear, and their name, how do we know them? How do we refer to them? And the things they do, the actions they do in the world. So these are what causes the distinction between one person to another. And same thing with animals and everything. And now what he's saying, that is what is meant by tena tyaktena bunjita. You have to abandon this thought, this ignorant thought. So, and then what is the way to do that? And he takes up his most preferred popular model where he talks about sannyasa here. So he gives that model of sannyasa from here. How do you really reform that vision? How do you transform that mission? That idea that God is all. So that he says, evam ishwaram atma bhavanataya yuktasya putradeshanat traya sannyasa evadikaraha na karmasu. So this thing is not obtained. You have to renounce, he says. You have to, and his model of renunciation. Of course, in Bhagavad Gita and all that, he has given a different understanding for sannyasa. But here, what is the model he's giving is, he's saying that pure vision you get by sannyasa. And what is the sannyasa? He says mostly giving up three desires. Putreshana and all that. Three desires. What are the three desires? I think by now all of us should know. Common desires. Putreshana is the desire for children.
Lokeshana, Vitteshana, and
Location.
Lokeshana, Putreshana, Vitteshana, Lokeshana. So these are the desire for progeny, desire for meaning your continuance, your family, and all that, desire for that. Vitteshana, desire for wealth and accumulation, and desire for world, for worldly success, and desire for other worlds. From a Vedic point, Lokeshana is not just desire of popularity in this world. That is a common thing we say, but really from a Vedic point, it is desire for heavens, desire for higher locus. That is the desire also that has to be given up. Why is there this desire for higher loka uh, uh, from a Vedic point important? Like for example, why does now Shankaracharya establish that I have to give up even the desire for a higher world? Where did this thought come from? From a Vedic point, anybody can think? Yeah,
Is
Varun.
because it is also some sort of a world, and every world Jagat is keep on changing, having this factors of forms and names. So maybe that is why this idea has come to not be
Yeah,
there.
but from a Vedic point, why has this come from? Like if you take the Vedas, how does Vedas how did Vedas plant this idea?
Is it because of purification? Like you do good karmas through karam kandas and everything, you get to this higher loka.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Vedas has planted this idea in us. Vedas has planted this idea that you can go to a higher life. So this is also a desire that the Vedas has created. In fact, we will see if we can discuss that karma. I've made some notes. The different karmas. So this desire has been planted in us. So now, let me just complete this before going deeper into that topic. So this also has to be given up. That is the point that Shankaracharya is saying. That desire for even the higher worlds, which originally Vedas told you can go to this higher worlds and there you will have no problems. Worldly problems, and you will not have physical problems, you will not have all this worldly kind of desires, and so that also you have to give up when you come to knowledge, the higher knowledge. So okay, now comes the tyaktena. That now the next point is, then he says bunjita. Bunjita means enjoy, right? So when you give up, you enjoy. That is the literal meaning, or enjoy by giving up. So what does this mean? So Shankaracharya says it here. Enjoy means protect yourself, protect the self by giving up. Meaning protect your atma by giving up the worldly desires. This is Shankaracharya's explanation, but a lot of other authors who are not from the Vedantic thing, they give a different meaning for bunjita. They say that enjoyment here means your sense of real enjoyment of life, that sense of being able to have that chitta shuddhi and being able to enjoy really in life. It comes from this kind of attitude. That is the bunjita. What they are saying is that enjoying not the world. There's an enjoying your sense of freedom that you get by freedom. When you let go of something, there is a sense of freedom, right? When you are not having attachment, when you don't have, see, many people don't want to have attachments, right? When you don't want to have things, because there's a sense of freedom. That sense of joy which comes from being free, that is their enjoyment, they say, which is also an okay meaning. But Shankaracharya's meaning is not that. Shankaracharya's meaning is that you renounce and then you protect yourself. So he translates that palana. He says that bunjita means palana. Palana means protect. Like we say, God will protect me. Like that. Here, that what is palana, what is protecting you is this renunciation. Okay, so now there's just the last portion. We will look at it. He says, Esha tyakteshana swayam grada makanksha ma karshi dana vishayam. So there, kasyachit parasya swarasya chadanam kankshita ityartaha. So here this we have gone through in the other class. I will not go much into it, but basically he's saying that whose wealth is this? Because everything is God only. Everything is belongs to God. So I don't have to desire anything else because everything belongs to God itself. So then, as here the translation says, everything has been renounced through this thought of the Lord. All this is but the self. So all this belongs to the self, and the self is all. See what have we done here? First, that there was that one was in all. Now what has happened? That one has become all. So this transformation Shankaracharya has shown through this commentary. See, if you read that thing, our normal understanding is that God is in all. So this is also, if you look at Bhagavad Gita, that this transformation happens in the 10th and 11th chapter. In the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in everything there is God. That is what is shown. Like in the mountains there's God, in the river there's God, in the great sage there is God. And then comes to Vishwarupa Darshana, everything is God. So this transformation, Shankaracharya. So then what has happened here? That kind of duality, that I and the world, this he has taken away. So this, those of you, Bhagavad Gita, what are the chapters I'm referring to?
Vishwarupa Darshana.
That is which chapter?
11th chapter.
Then the first one I mentioned.
This one is Vibhuti Yoga.
Vibhuti Yoga. Very good. Yeah. Okay, just testing if I'll remember. Okay, all right. So now the next part he comes. Now what happens here? He says is that as far as that where this first verse is concerned, then the one who commits to this, especially through the marga of renunciation. Renunciation could be literal renunciation, but renunciation of desires. One who gives up all desires, they are the most qualified to stay in knowledge, who pursue knowledge. So, like this is generally the thing that Shankaracharya has established, that the one who is most qualified to get knowledge is the one who has renounced everything. So the first stage is outward renunciation also he has done. But if not, he should have done inner renunciation of desires. That is where, he now says that, because that knowledge is not only for sannyasis, knowledge is attained even by people who are grihasthas, but they have to have done this inner renunciation, meaning they should have this detachment, that sense of freedom from all the worldly attachments. If they have done that, then they also are qualified for knowledge. But if in case somebody says that I'm not a sannyasi and I'm not also qualified for the inner renunciation, like how Janaka and Lord Krishna himself, they were all like, inner, they were grihasthas. Like this is Lord Krishna had more wives than anybody can imagine, right? But he was still a jnani, he was realized. So, but he had the inner renunciation. If that is not possible, then what? Then the second path is given. So the second path we actually also have to learn, even though we feel we are qualified for knowledge, that the other path is the path of Vedas only. But it is a way how to act in this world. So this is why this mantra is very important. So the mantra here, kurvanneveha karmani jiji vishe chatagum samaha evam tvai nanyate tosti na karma lipyate nare. So now he is going to explain this mantra. What is he going to say is that you do the work, you act in this. If you wish to live in this world for 100 years is an example. That is just like assuming man's life is 100 years. So if you want to live for 100 years, then what should you do? You should act, but act in line with how you are. No action will leave a residue effect. That is the main point. So if you want to live and you want to act, so if you're living, you have to act, right? So if you're living and you're doing action, then what you act should not bind you. So how can action bind us? What is he referring to when he's saying action can bind us? In what way can actions bind us? The two specific kind of ways through which actions can bind us.
Fruits of action.
Karma
Fruits of action. Karma phala. Then one more way.
Punya?
Oh, what is that, Rui?
Punya? Karma papa. Okay, Punya and Papa.
Punya
talking
papa.
about
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, karma phala is the same. Yeah, punya papa. But more you can think of in yogic terms. What is how does your action bind us from a yogic sense? From Bhagavad Gita or yogic
Samskaras.
Yeah, samskaras. It leaves a mental impression. So two ways. So for those attachment. So the two ways. One is that it leaves. If you take the Vedic approach, there is a karma and result. All your actions are computed, and based on that, it goes into your sanchita karma. Then from sanchita karma, you get prarabdha karma, that storage of karma for this life, and the actions you do in this life, which accumulates into next life, agami karma, and then they all go again into sanchita. So this is a traditional model, Vedic model. Then the yogic model is what? An action will leave an impression in your sukshma sharira, that subconscious mind. And that will want you to do action, like all our habits, which we say habits, and more importantly, addictions. They are all, where are they coming from? They are coming from that imprints. That is a yogic model. So they say that imprints is what is causing you bondage. So anyway, both ways we can take it. So now this is what he's saying. If you don't want the imprints to be there, then what? Then you should act in a proper way. See, this is the thing. As the Bhagavad Gita says, na kaschit kshanamapi, a person cannot stay even for a second without acting. Meaning a normal person, he cannot stay in that still state even for a second, because that he's driven, if not for physical action, for mental action. So this is so then what is the thing? Then is given this thing which we have we looked at last one. So what is the explanation? So this is where Shankaracharya gives us the second mantra. He says that Tavadhi purushasya paramar yur nirupitam tatacha praptanu vadane yujjijishi che chatam varshati tat kurvanneva karmani ityadvadiyate evam prakarena tvai jijivishate. Okay, so basically we will just look at this. Basically what he's saying is that if one has to live, one should perform karmas. What is that karma? He says that the present mode of karma, what one does is like doing agnihotra. See, agnihotra is one of the daily rituals that is given for a person following the shastra. Then he says, then that person will not have any like one who is doing that agnihotra karma, which is enjoyed by the scriptures, then there is no problem at all. So now there is an objection. Objection is given by, meaning somebody, this Shankaracharya generally what we call as Purvapaksha is a statement he himself puts, and this is it's like how we may have questions, we may have objections, some teaching, right? he himself puts these objections. What is the objection? He says that the first time it was told that the person who is a jnana nishta, like one who is capable for knowledge, for that person it was given. Katham putar idam avagamyate purvena mantrena sannyasine jnana nishtata dvitiyena tadashatasya karma nishta iti. Why is it one time he's saying that you have to be in knowledge and the other time he's saying you have to do action? On this contrary, you only gave this long Bhasya and said that this is contrary. So now this is where, I'll just want to project this part and we will look at, which I've already shared this part. What are the karmas? We discussed this, right? There are basically 5 karmas, which we discussed about. So this is where, all of you remember this point. There is a first one which is nitya. Oh, I forgot to write in English. Okay. But anyway, this I'll just mention. See, this here is nitya karma. Okay. So the first one is nitya karma. What is nitya karma? This is the daily or regular duties. We will come to that. Then there is naimittika karma. Naimittika karma means occasional rituals, duties, or the actions, some actions which you do on an occasional basis. Then comes kamya karma. Kamya karma is those desire fulfilling actions or rituals. So now this is what we have to understand. The Vedas also will give you rituals to fulfill certain desires. Especially if somebody wants to go to heaven, Jyotishoma and other kind of rituals. So Vedas have a way to help people fulfill the desires also. Then comes what is called as, so this is Kamya Karma, Sanskrit word. And then this is Nishiddha. Don't know the exact transliteration, but could be something like this. Nishiddha, which is actions that is forbidden. Some desires and some actions, even the Vedas says you cannot do, you cannot have. Some desires it will allow, some desires it will not allow. Then there is Prayaschitta. Prayaschitta, I think it will be something like this. Prayaschitta. That which you do for atonement or repentance. Okay, so these are the things that is given in the Vedas. Now, what is the way? How do we look at it? Is what is this mantra telling us? Is it is telling us you have to do actions. So, which actions do you think at the first level that this mantra is allowing us to do of these 5 so far?
Nitya Naimittika.
So let us say Nitya it is allowing. Naimittika it is allowing. Now what about Kamya Karma? Does this mantra allow you to have desires and act?
Act but without desire.
Act without desire. But then Kamya Karma is with desire, right?
So it is
But
to be
without
disowned.
desire, you can't make a thing. Living, desire is enough, or it is required.
For living the desires you. Jagdishi, your voice I can't hear. It's cracking.
This Nishkama karma.
No, that is true. But when you say Nishkama Karma, that is also what Rashmi was saying, But Kamya is not Nishkama, right? Kamya cannot be Nishkama. So this is where, the problem comes that, see, if you are a Nishkama Karma, then you are like a sannyasi, right? Then the second mantra does not apply to you. You should just stick in the first mantra. You will have no desires. Then you will be anchored in God. You will be anchored in self. Then you don't have to act really if you don't have the desires. So this point here, I will come back to that. So this point is question mark. So now comes Nishiddha. What about Nishiddha karma? Forbidden actions. Does this mantra say, can we do this?
No, Guruji.
So this one clearly it is no. So then if you don't do Nishiddha, the Prayaschitta is also not required, because Prayaschitta is atonement. But sometimes Prayaschitta is required because you may have done actions in previous lives. So that for some things the rituals are there for that. So now comes there is the point here which is that the way this model is working, right, is that there is Nitya and Naimittika karma is something which you have to do. And whether you are whether you are realized or not, you'll have to do, especially if you are a grahastha, for example. You have to do certain duties, certain rituals. So here it is not duty. So sometimes, people will say, yeah, because we say the Naimittika is obligatory duties. One of my duties is, my relatives have called me for wedding. I have to go because it's an obligation. I have to go. So that is not accepted as obligation duties, because that in that there is still a desire. What is the desire there? The desire is that you want to have these relations. So you want to maintain these relations. They will support me. I will support them. See, all this is still desire driven. So actually, what is the Naimittika karma really is that those are just specific duties that is given by the Vedic things. Those are the duties that you are asked to do. This is if you want to take it literally. But if you want to, that is why a sannyasi gives up even Nitya Naimittika karmas. He's asked to. His Nitya Naimittika karma is reduced to bare minimum of taking care of his body. So that is the ideal sannyasi, nivritti sannyasi. That is what he's supposed to do. His food, his place of stay is those things. And that is what everyone is generally supposed to do from a worldly point. The basic duties you have. But if you really, this is already an extension. The original thing, what was meant was those Vedic duties, as Agnihotra. Morning you set the fire, evening again you have to set the fire. So those are all, like the duties that the Veda had given. That was originally the Nitya. Now an expanded thing we say is, okay, I have to take care of my body, I have to take care of my family. So those we can include here. But Kamya Karma is actually what is happening in Kamya Karma is that there are some desires the Veda also will give you. Like you have certain desires, like you want to have a house for yourself, or you want to have certain kind of, I especially higher spiritual kind of evolution in your path and all that. So you will do some pujas, you will do some kind of, for some ashram, you will do some seva, or some guru, you will do seva, or more importantly, some desires that you want to fulfill, which are not prohibited, which are not under the Nishiddha karma. Those desires, some of them, the provision is given, but there also, how should you act? And this is where, the ideal thing, that thing is when we talk about husband and wife relationship. So it is said that even though that person is allowed to marry and have relation with his wife or husband, he should be loyal to his spouse. Why? Because that desire should channel only there. That desire, you cannot channel it like how, like nowadays, of course, society has become everywhere in India also. That kind of thing that is not allowed in the Vedic thing. So there also some provisions were there in sometimes, some for the upkeep of the ashram, for certain maintenance. Some people will marry twice and all that, but there are also a lot of Vedic things is there. So the desire, how do you fulfill those desires which are fulfilling is constrained in a certain way, and then it is purified in that. So then what happens, even that householder life becomes like a equivalent to a sannyasi kind of life. because you have put in those limits, you have put in that proper things. So then that person is still qualified for knowledge. That person who is working his desires in line with the shastras, in line with what is given there, that person is qualified to get knowledge. Not the person who is fulfilling any desires, which is beyond the realm of scriptures. Okay, and then comes another thing. When we talk about spiritual desires, there's one more part. What is that? There is a way to spiritualize further. You realize that there are some problems, some disturbances, some you need the grace of Guru, you need the grace of God, you need the grace of all these deities. Then what do? You get into upasanas. This upasana is also part of the Vedas. That is also allowed for you. So these are the actions that is permitted. What are the actions that's permitted? Nitya Naimittika mostly, and Kamya Karma only in line with the scriptures. Desires in line with the scriptures is permitted. We can take scriptures or what is come down to us in nowadays, because sometimes we don't have understanding of scriptures. Then what has the gurus and all told us we can do in this life? So those we can pursue, like livelihood also. What kind of job we do? There are also certain rules with that, how you pursue what and all that. Okay, so those are the things. Now ultimately it comes to upasana. Upasana is the last part, where you have that better attunement, better understanding, and through which, what are you getting through upasana? Most importantly, what is it that upasana can help us in the path of knowledge? How can it help us, or what can you do to help us?
Purification of the mind.
Purification of the mind. Chitta Shuddhi. It gives us that Chitta Shuddhi. And through that Chitta Shuddhi, we become more qualified to abide in that supreme knowledge. Okay, so I think I'll leave it at this. I wanted to add a couple of more points, but I'll give some time for questions if people have. So in fact, just another way of looking at upasana or this the actions. There's all these actions. One way of looking of all these actions, which Aurobindo also talks about, is that these actions should be in such a way that it is that involution action. There is evolution action, meaning going outward into Prakriti, into nature. That is one kind of action. The other action, what we are doing in Upasana, we are turning inward. We are turning towards God. We are turning towards ourselves. That, he says, is the real action that this mantra is talking about. So if you live for 100 years, then the 100 years you should devote yourself to worship of God or worship of the Guru given practices, and those things you should do. That is another way to think of actions. Okay, so we'll just give some thing. If anybody has any doubts related or any questions first, let us just see. Yeah. Yes, Father, my
Yeah, Swami. The question is just at the bottom of your list there, when you speak about upasana and the way you've described it as chitta shuddhi and an involution action which purifies the inner self, right? Is that a way of summarizing the karmas that can be done, the nitya, naimittika, and occasional kamya?
Correct. Now the Nitya and Naimittika are indirectly a process of involution, meaning like they are working at the level of our karmas, like what I call that storage of punya papa, they are working directly at that level to help dissolve that. But it is not a direct involution process. But upasana is a direct involution process. But you're right. That's a good way to put it. It is, both of them are to help us in the inward process.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the only difference in Upasana is that Upasana has come as a process of uh, constantly that desire to seek that knowledge, that seek that higher reality. So Nitya and Naimittika is come more like because the scriptures have told us that you have to do this, okay, you will do that. No? You may not see a direct relation with that to the yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, you can ask. If you can feel free to ask any questions. Anybody? Don't have to. Yeah, Varun. Yeah.
So, Swamiji, when we talk about kamya over here, the desires, so desire to get moksha, the freedom, is it a part of the Vedic, the Karma Kanda text? Like, is it allowed, sort of, or is like something not there?
Yeah. No, Karma Kanda text will not allow. Not say you won't allow. I mean, because they also take in Upanishad text, but Karma Kanda's goal is not that. Karma Kanda is not giving you the goal of this freedom because it is telling you that there are all these higher locus and all that where you have to go, and it will come later on that that liberation, that what they talk about is that ability to have that all these blessings of all these deities, that protection and all that from all these deities. So you are working constantly towards that. So that is why it is a series of constant karma. You have to be involved with that karma. You are there. You're always serving. So that it is not moksha. Moksha is not their goal. You can say. But you were saying kamya. I didn't get that part. What was that? You were saying
So it was like kamya calls for desires. So even there's a desire for us coming to the class to get freedom, to get knowledge.
ha ha
This
ha.
desire for moksha is there for to
No,
get.
no, no. This is what I was saying. This is almost like you can take under the part of like an upasana. So here, this desire of studying, this desire of practicing, and all that, it is almost you can like what we call like Shravana Manana Nididhyasana and all that. These are also practices we are doing. But what is the difference is that these practices are not just for Saguna Brahma. These practices are for that getting that real understanding of reality. So the Upasana also, there are two kinds. That Upasana which is to get the blessings of Saguna Brahma. That blessings of Saguna Brahma is helpful even for our studies. But they are not directly helping. That what we are doing now is that upasana in a way, but it is almost like you can say like a nirguna upasana. We are in the process of almost like action for the sake of jnana, knowledge. Action in order to get that wisdom, that understanding has come already. So there, what has happened that kamya karma is not there anymore. So if you dissolve the kamya karma, you can do this kind of upasana, nirguna upasana. So for a jnani, the kamya karma is not allowed. So even like in other words, like if you want to come, like you can in a worldly life you can be a grihastha, but at the point of seeking knowledge you have to be willing to even give up your wife or your thing and come to the class, right? So that is what is it's asking you. You cannot have the desire to be with your wife, and so of course some of you are here with your, so I can't say you're here with your husband and wife in the class, so that is okay, but you're really here with knowledge. You're getting support of your husband and wife. So that kind of kamya karma is not allowed when you come to real knowledge. Yeah, Kartika.
Swamiji, what about working towards, like, for example, karma, like making changes in our daily lifestyle,
Yeah.
like big changes. So that is the intention, is to study more, to learn more.
Yes.
So will that be, is that also a desire, or it's like
Correct.
nirguna?
Yeah, no, this is what more or less what I was telling Varun, right? See, that kind of a desire, it is like a knowledge-based desire. So there are two parts to this. So I can only go a bit into that. Generally, what happens when we have the desire for knowledge, that knowledge is uplifting, but we are not able to abide completely in that knowledge alone as our path. So what happens that that is where why Vedas also has given us different means. Like, okay, you do nishkama karma, as some of you are saying, right? You do seva out of nishkama, or you do other actions like like you study, you write the notes. Sometimes people write these notes, they make it available, or if you just for yourself, you do actions. So what is happening? These actions are like in a way supporting your knowledge. So there is sadhana. In a way, wherever there is sadhana, that knowledge has not completely happened. But that sadhana is essential for knowledge to happen. So what you both are talking about is what we refer to as sadhana. So that sadhana is in a way not just upasana. It is not like you're worshipping a god, but it is another form of upasana category only. But it doesn't have even the taint of upasana. Meaning here you want that knowledge alone. So this will not leave you any taint. Like if you are worshipping just Saguna Brahma, there is a little taint of that samskara will be there. Huh? Like if you like what we call Ishta Devata. See, why is there Ishta Devata? If you really look at it, that Ishta Devata is a taint from, it's a kind of a good samskara. It is an impression that has come from some lives, or you're created in this life. So at the dawn of wisdom, they say even that will fall generally. That Ishta Devata that you worship, that also will fall at the dawn of knowledge. But what happens until you get to that knowledge, you need these supports. But now, for example, we are studying, especially when we are studying this Vedanta and all these things, the scriptures which we are studying, meditating, contemplating on, that what happens is, because it is of the nature of self, where that action is going inward, it is not leaving any imprint there in the consciousness. Only that which you engage that mind with a little bit of still outward meaning anything from pure Paramatma is outward. Anything from pure self is outward. So anything at that level will still leave an imprint, and that imprint will be a good imprint if it's a sadhana. But if it is, especially when we talk about this Shravana Manana Nididhyasana and all these things, it will not leave even that imprint. So na karma lipyate, what he is saying, right? So that is the highest form of action. So in fact, if you listen to my early part of that manana I was doing, I was talking about that. If there is one action we do, it is this action to turn that attention inward. That one karma, that one kriya, if we do, that is that highest kriya of turning, abiding inward. Now, but what happens is we are not ready for that. So there is a second tier sadhana almost all of us need. That second tier sadhana is finding way to engage in some saguna form, some saguna seva, some kind of saguna mantra or something. So these are all forms. They will leave taints, but that taint will be not such a strong taint. They are not like that strong a bondage. They are easy bondages to let go, and they are helping you. They are bondages so that which doesn't allow you to go into outer bondages. He will talk about this. I will describe this. There are two paths which will come in the next mantra, called as Nivritti Marga and Pravritti Marga. there are two margas. Nivritti marga is the inward path, inward turning path. Pravritti marga is the outward turning path. So even in sadhana, there are two kinds of sadhanas, pravritti sadhana and nivritti sadhana. Okay, so we couldn't go through with the reading that English English portion today. We will try to do it next class. So all of you can also read it next time. Most likely next Friday we will not do the class because that mantra may not need it. But I will let you know after Sunday, because if I can cover some points in the Sunday class, then I will not do the Bhasya class the following Friday. So that way you all can hopefully take time next Friday and reflect on this. So that is the idea. Okay, we can just say the closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti.
Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you. Om Namo Narayana.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Namaste.